I'm Bridget Stomberg.
And I'm Lisa D. Simone.
And this is Taxes for the Masses.
Today's episode explores Roth conversions.
Over the past couple of years, the S&P 500 has experienced annual returns greater than 25%, despite multiple indicators suggesting an imminent market downturn. In today's episode, we discuss the different types of retirement accounts and how to potentially take advantage of any future market corrections via a Roth conversion.
Hello, B.
Hello, Lisa.
Question for you. How would you say your investment portfolio is doing right now?
By investment portfolio, I assume you mean my retirement accounts?
Okay. Sure.
I keep putting money in them.
Yeah.
So far, they keep going up.
Ooh, yes.
I don't really look at them that much.
That's good. Smart.
But it seems like a win-win. Everything's going okay.
Yeah. I had a similar conversation recently with one of my uncles. He's 72 and retired, and he said he has finally started taking money out of his retirement accounts.
Okay.
And they keep going up in value.
Now that's nice.
That is nice.
Yes.
Yes.
I think I'd like to have that situation.
Yeah, you and a lot of other people.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And they've been getting their wish recently.
Okay.
Market's seemingly been on a tear somehow.
Yes.
Over the last several years, despite pandemic, wars, tariffs, odd market indicators suggesting that things are not going to keep roaring, and yet they keep roaring. They keep roaring. And apparently a lot of people have also been buying the dip, meaning they decide to buy stocks anytime the stock market drops just a little bit. Mm-hmm. And of course, all that demand props it back up again.
Yes, I have also seen some articles in the past few years about buying the dip, and you can imagine my disappointment upon learning that it was not like a cheese dip or some other sort of...
You were hoping for queso.
Potato chip dip. I would also take a good ranch.
Yeah, ooh, a
dip,
good ranch.
Little Hidden Valley Ranch packet in a container of sour cream.
You know what I think is the unsung hero of potential dips?
Okay.
Pimento cheese.
Oh, yes.
It is delicious.
It is delicious, but it's one of those things that once you've made it once...
Yeah, you don't want to...
You don't.
Yeah.
But it's because it's cheese and mayonnaise.
Yeah.
But it's delicious.
This is why I don't make it. I just consume it.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. I'm with you.
At some point, though, those buyers of the dip could run out of funds, or they could run out of confidence in the market. And so we may eventually have a market correction or downturn, in which case it makes sense to talk about what these retirement savings what might happen to them, mm-hmm. and what one could do about them in case the market, forgets that it's just supposed to go up and up and up over time.
So I hope you're not implying that we're going to talk about running out of dip, because that makes me sad. I don't want to talk about running out of dip.
I don't talk about running out of food, and I certainly never talk about running out of cheese.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So having established that,
yes,
I think I just want to say that scenario you just described of the market, like forgetting that it's supposed to go up, it's a pretty glass half empty view of the world for you. I'm supposed to be the pessimist on this show.
You are supposed to be the pessimist, yes. But I tend to think that the market's going to have a correction all the time. I'm one of those people. Okay. Yeah, I'm a bear, not a bull.
You're the bleak bee in this situation. All right.
Yeah. So why don't you kick us off by... Let's start with the basics, right? Let's remind our listeners how these retirement accounts work. We're talking about individual retirement accounts or IRAs. We're also talking about employer-sponsored plans like 401ks, 403bs, thrift saving plans, etc.
Times are tough when I'm the one who's reminding everybody how retirement plans work, but
Lies.
Sure. Everything I know I've learned from this podcast. So there are generally two types of retirement accounts, traditional and Roth. Mm-hmm. And with a traditional account, that's what I think most people are familiar with. That's your 401k type retirement account, where you get a deduction when you put money into that account.
Yep.
So you are not paying tax on the income. It's going straight to your 401k. Mm-hmm. And so you're not paying tax when you contribute. Instead, you're going to pay that tax in the future someday when you withdraw from that account in retirement. Your hope, like your uncle shared with you, is at that point your contributions have compounded and grown into a really sizable nest egg to fund your retirement. And you're going to not take them all out at once. Hopefully,
Right.
you're going to keep them in there so that, to your uncle's point, they can keep growing and keep generating a return for you
For the rest of your lifetime.
the rest of your days.
Yeah. So a Roth account is just the opposite. And to be clear, the traditional flavor could be an IRA or a 401k or whatever. Roth flavor could also be an IRA, 401k. And those are increasingly common these days that employers are offering them. So it's the opposite of traditional, meaning that when you contribute money, you pay tax on that money that you contribute. You don't get a deduction for
No.
it. So think of it as putting in after-tax dollars into your plan. And the magic that happens later. Once that money's been in the account for at least 5 years, you're over what the current age is for withdrawals, 59 and a half. Your withdrawals in retirement are going to be completely tax-free. So that includes all the growth in your investments that you've had over the years. Every dollar that you pull out of a Roth flavor of account, you already are considered to have paid taxes on it. And so it is tax-free when you withdraw.
So I like the way you describe them as opposites.
Yeah.
Because the big difference, I mean, really, there's different on most dimensions. Traditional and Roth, the big difference is when you pay the tax, now or later.
Exactly.
With a Roth, you bite the bullet and you pay the taxes now in order to take those withdrawals tax-free in the future.
Exactly. So today we're aiming to talk about Roth conversions. So let's explain what a Roth conversion is.
Now we're really treading into uncharted territory.
You're going to do great.
I can do it. Okay. So a Roth conversion, pretty much what it sounds like, it's the process of converting funds from a pre-tax retirement account, like a traditional IRA or a 401k, and converting or moving them into a Roth account. But because those funds were tax deferred before, remember, you got a deduction when you contributed that money into your traditional account. You weren't taxed on those dollars. So you don't need us to tell you, right? The government is not going to let you not pay tax up front and not pay tax on the back end. So when you convert those traditional pre-tax dollars into a Roth, you must pay income tax on that money in the year that it is transferred, just like you would have paid tax on that income if you had put it into a Roth in the first place. So converting to a Roth doesn't get you out of tax forever.
Yep. So you're converting taxable retirement income in a traditional account into tax-free retirement income in a Roth account so that those future withdrawals in retirement are tax-free. And the cost of doing that is to pay tax at ordinary rates on every single dollar you convert from traditional to Roth.
And I'm hoping that you, our listeners, are understanding now that there are probably some pretty good reasons to do this. And this is a choice. This is something that you can choose to do. Nobody's compelling you to do this. And so you might want to do it even though you are going to trigger immediate tax for yourself. One of the biggest advantages, like we just said, is that those withdrawals in retirement are going to be tax-free.
Yeah, and that sounds lovely. Everybody loves tax-free stuff. The trick is that I can show you mathematically. And
Please don't.
We do this exercise in my class.
I trust you.
It doesn't matter whether I pay 25% on my contributions to a traditional retirement account or pay 25% on my withdrawals from a Roth retirement account. Either way, I'm paying 25%. I'm going to have the same amount of money.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that because sometimes this is always a thing that trips me up. I'm like, if I pay now, pay later, why does it really matter?
Does it matter?
Glad to hear that it doesn't. But your fancy math only works if the tax rate that you pay now is the same as the tax rate that you pay in retirement. So you're holding that 25% constant between now and the future. But your tax rate is going to be impacted by a lot of things, including the amount of income you have and any changes in tax policy. As we've all seen, there's no guarantee that what the tax rate is today, it's going to be in 20 years from now. So the punchline is that if you expect to be wealthier in retirement, you may have to pay a higher tax rate on withdrawals than on your current income now. And in that case, you would prefer a Roth. And even if you hold your income constant, if you expect Congress to enact higher tax rates over time, possibly because we need to pay our national debt, or maybe we don't. I don't know.
That seems to be the prevailing perspective in Congress.
It's just a number.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a number. Age is just a number. The national debt is just a number. In that case, then you might also expect your rate to go up over time. And again, you might prefer paying tax now at a lower rate.
I agree with everything you just said.
I love it when you agree with everything I say, especially when it has to do with numbers and math. Okay. So that's one benefit of a Roth. Another major perk of a Roth is that these accounts are not required to make what we call required minimum distributions, or RMDs. With traditional accounts, the IRS forces you to start taking money out at a certain age, currently 73.
Because they want their cash money.
Because they want their tax revenue. Yeah. Exactly. Because if you let that money sit in there forever and never withdrew it, no tax revenue.
Yep.
But with a Roth, the IRS already got their tax.
They have no further claim.
Took their pound of flesh.
Yep.
And so you don't have that pressure. They don't care what you do with the money at that point. So the benefit there is that you can just keep growing that money untouched for your entire lifetime. And then if you so desire, you can just give it to somebody when you die.
Yeah. So this flexibility when it comes to RMDs is a really big deal for a number of reasons, and a big reason why we're seeing a rise in the use of Roths, I think.
Absolutely. But back to our conversation about the market. How does this tie into our concept of buying the dip? Some wealthy planners are viewing Roth conversions as basically the retirement version of buying the dip. So if the market is down and your account value has temporarily decreased, the account value sitting in your traditional account, you'd be paying taxes on a smaller amount of funds now that you're converting to a Roth. Then as the market recovers, your money can grow back tax-free within the Roth.
That sounds pretty clever. Let's say more things about that.
Please.
All right, we understand the appeal of Roth accounts and the tax cost of converting traditional assets to Roth assets, but let's talk a bit more about this notion of buying the dip, or more generally, when is the ideal time to do a Roth conversion?
First, I would like to know, who is Roth?
Roth, I believe, was a senator who designed or pitched the idea of the Roth IRA, and it was intended to help lower income.
I do remember this.
Taxpayers,
Yes.
because they, at a lower income level, you have a lower marginal tax rate. And so your deduction for making a contribution to a traditional account is much smaller.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that's working out entirely as planned, right?
I would say it's predominantly the wealthier and the higher income individuals who are using Roths, including senators.
Couldn't have seen that one coming.
Yeah.
It's a shocker. Okay. So the biggest piece of advice from the experts when it comes to buying the dip is to ensure that you buy enough dip for everybody at your party.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I would like to put in a request for pimento cheese, please.
Not what I meant. What I meant to say is that the biggest piece of advice is to convert to a Roth when your income is lower and your marginal tax rate is lower. So this is back to the first benefit of Roths that we talked about. If you expect your tax rate to be higher when you're withdrawing from your account than when you're putting money in, a Roth is a good decision. If the opposite is true, you'd prefer traditional.
Okay, great. And as we mentioned before, because we have a seemingly progressive tax system, seemingly, if you expect to have more income in the future, then your rate is probably also going to be higher in the future. So Roths are a good decision.
Yes. And one way you could actually have less income in the future is if you suddenly stop making as much money. And that could absolutely be the case in the early years of your retirement, especially if you haven't started taking Social Security yet, or you're like us and there's not going to be any Social Security.
Exactly.
So this period of time in people's lives is sometimes called the trough years, because let's just compare us all to pigs, horses. I don't know. What eats out of a trough?
Yeah, farm animals.
Okay. So we're retired farm animals.
It's Animal Farm.
Okay. Yeah. It is Animal Farm. Actually, trough is the gap between retirement and collecting your Social Security or taking those required minimum distributions. So that period of time is ideal for making these conversions because you have less income and you have more control over your income sources, so you can kind of dictate how much income you have.
Yeah, so during a window of time like this where you're not earning as much, the conversion tax is less painful because you're paying at a lower rate because you have less taxable income.
Exactly. And as we just mentioned, converting when the market has taken a hit can also be a good strategy because you pay taxes on a smaller amount. So let's say you had $500,000 in your traditional account and then the market drops and now your holdings are only worth $300,000.
Ouch.
That hurts.
Yeah.
At least in the sense that you currently have less wealth.
Yes.
Not good. But if you're trying to find a silver lining and you convert those assets to Roth, you would only have to pay tax on that lower $300,000 than you would have if you had done the conversion when your account was still worth $500,000.
Well, that's certainly true. Yeah. If your rate is, say, 25%, the market downturn just saved you $50,000 in taxes on your Roth conversion.
Plus, any market rebounds happen tax-free. So let's be optimistic and say your account not only goes back up to $500,000, but it goes up to $800,000 sometime in the future after you've converted to the Roth. A little optimism. You'll never pay tax on that appreciation because all of the withdrawals that you take from that higher value account are now Roth withdrawals and they're happening tax-free.
Yeah.
Instead, if you kept that money in the traditional account, you'd eventually pay tax on that entire value and, depending on how things shake out for you, potentially at a higher rate.
So it sounds like market downturns are a really good thing for Roth conversions. Excellent. What else?
So some advisors also suggest converting early in the year, like literally the calendar year, like do it in January.
Okay.
Because it gives you more time to pay the taxes that you owe. Because remember, that's not going to happen until April of the following year.
Sure.
For the most part.
Sure. Now, you could end up in a penalty situation if it's too much, but...
Totally.
Okay.
But with some planning, you could work around that.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Some of this is starting to sound a little bit too good to be true, though. Yeah. Like my little spidey sense is going off. So I want to make sure we talk about potential pitfalls because it seems like this is an area where people, like with the penalties I just mentioned, people could get themselves into some trouble. So what should people be looking out for?
So the first and probably most significant hurdle I can think of is that you have to pay tax now.
Yeah.
So you have an immediate tax liability.
Yeah.
And the taxes on the funds that you transfer could be substantial depending on how much you transfer and what your marginal tax rate is.
Sure.
And this is the big one. You should never use funds from your retirement account to pay those taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you do, you're not only taking money out, like away from yourself that you could have left in there to grow tax-free, but if you're under 59 and a half and you tap into those funds to pay taxes, you could also face a 10% penalty for early withdrawal.
Yeah. That's a really, really good point. It generally will not pay off to use those funds inside your retirement account to pay the taxes on a conversion. So you really need to have cash outside of your retirement account specifically earmarked for that tax bill.
Absolutely. So if that's a deal breaker, or if you have to use retirement funds to pay the tax liability, then it's likely it's going to significantly diminish the benefit of the conversion. So you really have to make sure that it's going to be worth it at that point.
Yeah.
And that's going to be hard to do because you don't have a crystal ball to know what your tax rate is going to be in the future.
You don't have a crystal ball?
I do. Do you? No.
I do. Oh. I mean, it's worthless, but I do have one.
Well, I was going to say, then call Lisa and she'll tell you whether this makes sense or not.
I like to tell my students when they ask me what the future of tax policy is going to hold, or, you know, our tax rate is going to go up. I like to say my crystal ball is just as effective as theirs.
Nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop them from asking.
It does not.
Okay. All right, so make sure you have the cash that you need to cover your tax liability. Another major concern is that converting a large sum in 1 year could actually push you into a higher tax bracket.
Yes.
Remember, again, in theory, we have a progressive tax system. In theory. So this is why some wealth planners suggest that you might need to commit to a multi-year conversion process and spread out your conversions over time. This is called a Roth conversion ladder, and it can actually help you manage your tax liability by making sure you stay in a lower tax bracket.
Similar to bond ladders that a lot of retirees use to have income come due from their maturing bonds spread over time.
I've heard it in the charitable contribution context as well, that you want to make sure that you're not, because there's limits on how much you can deduct. So this is a concept that is prevalent throughout other parts of the tax code as well.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. We've been talking about income tax consequences, but I think there are other consequences potentially too to having this extra income from your Roth conversion.
This is one of my favorite things. You got to remind people: effective tax planning, all taxes, all costs.
Yeah.
So we can't just think of one type of tax, and we can't just think about taxes.
Yep.
So higher income from a Roth conversion can also increase your Medicare premiums.
Yes.
That's another reason why spreading it out over several years can mitigate that.
Okay. How long do people usually try to spread these out?
That's a crucial consideration. Going to be, again, fact and circumstance driven.
Yeah.
Taxpayers are going to need to think about expected longevity because it can take years for those converted funds to grow enough we're thinking about time value of money also, to recoup the initial tax outlay that you had.
Sure. Yeah.
So the longer you can leave the money in a Roth account to grow tax-free, the more effective the conversion will be. So my general thought would be the earlier in retirement you can do it, the better.
Yep. So another reason to consider doing it early on in retirement is because at that point you have more years to recoup that tax cost. You might even consider doing it as a worker before retirement, assuming, of course, that you've got a good idea that your tax rate will be higher in retirement than during your working years.
And that's when you call Lisa.
In my crystal ball.
Yes. It's the only way to know. Another issue people doing Roth conversions need to think about is that 5-year withdrawal rule. So each conversion has its own unique 5-year clock. And if you withdraw earnings before that period is up and before age 59 and a half, you could face taxes and penalties.
So it's not just like a really easy, simple, straightforward decision. There's a lot of complexities that you need to think about. I would think about tax rates, think about Medicare premiums, think about the timing of these things, abiding by the rules with the 5-year clock. There's a lot going on here.
There is. It's not easy at all. And so it is always a good idea to consult with a tax professional and a financial planner and a futurist and a psychic.
Yeah.
And your doctor.
Yes. And the internet, which is going to diagnose you anyway.
Yes, absolutely. Ask ChatGPT what you should do.
Yes.
And, all joking aside, just talking to more people is helpful, even if it's just going to give you a second and third and fourth pair of eyes on the decisions to make sure that you're at least thinking about all of the considerations.
And that sparks a thought. I think we might need to consider doing an episode on how to find a tax professional or financial planner that you trust.
Is there a way to do that?
Well, there are, on the margin, there are things you can look for, yes.
Okay, I like that. Let's put it on the list.
Awesome. Time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think retirement planning for me is what stock compensation is for you.
I was going to say.
In terms of like favorite topic.
You have a deep, lasting love.
Yes.
Of retirement.
Abiding.
You do.
Yes.
It's serious. And it's good. It's very fiscally responsible of you.
That is like the most Lisa statement you could possibly have said about me. I'm very fiscally responsible.
You are very fiscally responsible. It's a good thing to be.
Yeah, a little boring. I need a little more midlife crisis in my world, I think.
But all joking aside, it is complicated, it is complex, but I think at a very basic level, I am happy that we can do something, our small part, to let people know that there are choices that they have when making retirement contributions. And also that if you start with a traditional, it's not irreversible.
Yeah, that's true.
You can change your mind or your situation might change. You have flexibility. So you can always do a Roth conversion. If this Roth sounds amazing and you think, oh man, I should have been doing that from the beginning, it's not too late.
That's true.
You just have to know the costs and the considerations.
Yeah, and I think that's the bad, I guess.
Okay.
Right? The costs and considerations is that these conversions can get complicated, especially if you do them over time. And now you have a series of different 5-year rules on each conversion that you do.
That's going to require a spreadsheet.
Right. I'm all about DIY when it comes to taxes and financial planning, but this is a case where even if it's just a friend who knows a lot, like run it by somebody else before you do things.
So 2 things.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did not say we love DIY taxes. I'm glad that you clarified that it's you who loves DIY taxes. And just in case anybody was confused, I'm not the person to call to get a second.
Because she said she doesn't have a crystal ball.
I don't. Lisa's worthless crystal ball is still better than me. Any ugly?
I mean, we haven't had that big downturn that I've been expecting for 5 years.
Heavily on a wooded.
Let me lean over so you can knock on my head.
Surface.
I've been saying for 5 years that we'd have a downturn, and eventually I am going to be right.
I was going to say, a broken clock is even right twice a day.
Which is twice as frequent as how often I am right.
I don't like it. I don't want to you're right, but I don't want to think about it. I don't want to go back. I mean, 08, 09. We had just been working, 5 years? You're just kind of for me at least, I was just kind of starting, there were just starting to be commas in my...
Yeah. And then we decided to give it all up and go back to grad school.
There was nothing to give up after the,
That's true.
It was, And that was hard enough to see a tiny amount get washed out. I'm not looking forward to seeing. Yeah. Anyway, on to brighter topics. What can we end this on a positive note, please? Something, anything? Pimento cheese? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Let's go get some pimento cheese.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Well, that's all we have time for today.
Be sure to join us for more tax nerdery on future episodes of Taxes for the Masses.